Historically, we've had super close games with CLG.
Last playoffs, the double TP play.
Piglet is definitely in hypercarry mode right now, but Darshan wants to kill him.
That's a little ambitious.
Oh, double TP!
It's two of the double TP! He only thought it was one.
It always goes to like game 5, game 3 if it's a best of 3.
The past regular season game where we took the dragon fight.
All right, boys. This is our fight. Here we go. Yep. CLG will not go quietly into the night. They're looking for the kill in the turret. Fabi's dead. Will they really make it the comeback? They've got 5. Unbelievable finish.
It always feels like we have something to prove when we play versus CL.
It just comes down to like one play or like one mistake.
I wouldn't necessarily say like, oh wow, CLG is really good. I'd be like, okay, well, TL played like monkeys and they lost.
Most of the time, they're not watching their backs. Usually that's their downfall.
Welcome to Los Angeles, California, where today the North American LCS Summer Playoffs continue live. Today, the North American quarterfinals come to a conclusion as the defending champions, CounterLogic Gaming, look to make their run at a third consecutive league title. Now, earlier today, CLG top laner Darshan is hoping to take them there. He's locked in and ready to go on stage just now, and team captain Afromu is on stage with him, getting set for their match against Liquid. Dardoch on your screens will be roaming the map, looking for ganks, hoping to set up teammate Lorlo for success in today's best of 5. That top lane matchup is going to be a very interesting one. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm James Dash Patterson, accompanied by Mark Zimmerman and Aiden Zyron Moon. It's great to have you both with us to close out our quarterfinals. Now, before we get into today's series, we'd first like to apologize for the postponement of today's EU LCS quarterfinal between H2K and Fnatic. Now, due to technical difficulties, the match had to be moved to Tuesday, August 16th at 8 a.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Central European. It was a difficult day for the pro players, the fans in attendance, and the viewers. So we want to thank everyone for their patience. We'll have to wait another couple days to see Forgiven and Reckless go toe-to-toe, but it is still sure to be a fabulous meeting when they do so. Now, though, time to turn our attention to today's North American series. Let's take a holistic view of the playoff picture. Yesterday, Cloud9 came out victorious in our first quarterfinal match. They'll advance to face Immortals in the semifinal, which means today, CounterLogic Gaming and Liquid battle it out to decide who will move on to battle our #1 seeded TSM. Not necessarily an honor I would like to have is playing them in the semifinals, but it's their road to the finals. So with North America's crown at stake, teams are also competing for much-needed championship points to book their trip to Worlds. Here you can see the points our playoff teams earned in spring, along with their current minimum guaranteed points from summer. TSM and CLG are tied with the most points, followed by Immortals in third. But more points are up for grabs, with first place in summer qualifying for Worlds. Second place takes 90, third 70, fourth 40, and fifth and sixth get 20 each. Now, the most points earns the second seed at Worlds, and the remaining playoff teams face off in the regional qualifier for the final spot. Did we get all that?
Nope, wasn't listening.
Yep. Should we roll it all back and do it again?
Just go again.
Okay, here we go. All right, well, now I want to briefly recap our first quarterfinal match last night. We could see Team Liquid on stage getting ready just now, but last night, Cloud9 took down Envy in a dominant fashion, propelling them into the North American semifinal against Immortals. So briefly, gentlemen, let's talk about that series. Sustaining the loss in game 1, but then running it back for Cloud9.
Yeah, and the interesting thing was the loss in game 1 was somewhat due to their own fault. They did get a lead initially, and then they started missing abilities and using them kind of on the wrong targets, and Envy clawed their way back until eventually there was a Baron fight that they were able to turn and grab the advantage. And Envy played pretty well in that game, and then from there, it just slipped further and further away as C9 seemed to get a better grasp on the series.
Yeah, I also think the draft in game 1 was much better for Envy, and then throughout the series, they made some augmentations. The Tom Kench came into play, and they weren't completely prepared for it. And then the final game was full tilt. It was full tilt.
Yeah.
Like, that was really just an all-in. They are either going to lose the game, or they're going to go down in a blaze, or they're going to win the game, or they're going to go down in a blaze of glory.
I mean, we were asking, backs against the wall. They got to win 2 in a row here. What are they going to do? They're going to pull out all the stops. They do just that, as you mentioned. They all in on the all-in comp. Of course, it goes the other direction and hurts them quite significantly. But for a freshman squad, a fantastic showing for them, having made it to the playoffs, securing some points.
Yeah, and they actually only came together literally a week before the split started. So they came in with very little teamwork, very little experience among each other, and some of them are, rookies and have a little bit of experience as players. So then add that on top, they had a honeymoon phase that started to die off, and then they had to deal with new problems that they hadn't before. So honestly, making playoffs for them was actually a really good success after everything was kind of evaluated for the team.
Right, and then we have a squad that's mostly made up of veterans over on Cloud9, and the standout performer for C9 in that series was mid laner Jensen, who shattered some records yesterday, including those for the most ever kills in a single NALCS game and most kills in an NALCS series. Here we go. We'll take a look at them all.
Rip Scara.
Yeah, no, I was talking to Scara
Master Yi.
Yeah, I was talking to Scara afterwards. AP Master Yi, a little easier to clean up on. Here, it was just like pick after pick after pick for Jensen, and it was kind of scary at the end watching him just blow people up from full health.
Yeah, but his team set him up so well in these things. I saw some people being like, Jensen's a god. It's like, really, his team was helping him so much.
Envy helped a little too.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's a champion you're going to pick 20 kills up in a game on, it's going to be LeBlanc, right?
Yeah, and it was so good by C9 to actually look at the Pantheon LeBlanc lane and go, oh, that's going to snowball out of control either way.
Right.
Let's help that lane out. And then they got him ahead, and then it was just pretty much all said and done from there. But he did an incredible job and set a record. First, he actually got 14 kills and tied the playoff kill record.
Right.
And then he went on to 2 games later to break
bullet.
the record and then break the regular season record too.
Previously held by Scara at 19 kills in Week 3, Day 1 of Summer 2013.
A 3-year-old record.
Which is nuts. And then the previous record for a series was held by Bjergsen, 31 kills in the 2014 Summer semifinal against LMQ. So beating that with 47 kills, that's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, we're talking about the series, the whole overall.
Right.
Bjergsen with 31. Beating that by 16, averaging over 10 kills a game.
And that was in 4 games. He didn't even need a 5th game.
Yeah, that's what's so crazy about it. Was just, if that was a closer series, you're like, wait, would he get even more kills or not? Because it's like, he gets 21
that game.
but this one, it was all overall just crazy performance.
They're going to need more performances like that out of him if they plan on pushing themselves to the finals and possibly taking a victory and the crown. Jensen's huge performance yesterday adds to a growing list of amazing summer highlights that we're revisiting throughout playoffs. So tweet us at LOL Esports using the hashtag NALCS and identify the biggest summer moment from the 2016 NALCS for a chance to see your comments and highlights featured as we push towards Toronto. Now on to the quarterfinal match at hand. Liquid is coming into the playoffs here, or today's contest rather, looking to bounce back after a disappointing last week or two to their split.
Yeah, they had gone 0-2 in Week 9, and they've been struggling in terms of how they looked as well. It wasn't just like, oh, we played some close matches and then we lost. They lost to Apex and then got kind of destroyed by C9, who was obviously looking good, but you would think it'd be a lot more competitive than it really was.
Yeah, it definitely looked like Liquid, they're an emotional team coming off of an 0-2 week at the end of the split and then having 2 weeks to kind of mull it over, adjust to a new patch. It's like, has this team actually gotten back to center and are they ready for this matchup today? Because it's going to swing either way really hard, I believe.
Questions yet to be answered. Now, CLG blew away expectations at the midseason invitational. They came back to NA, though, and they struggled early on in the split. But lately, they've turned a corner, and they're looking a lot better on the second half of their split. The question is, what do we expect to see out of our defending champions? Can they make that run with just a few weeks' time to, re-challenge for a three-peat?
I think it's close. What was kind of weird was their season was similar to TL's throughout the whole way, where both started really slow, picked up at the middle point in the season, and then right at the very end started faltering.
Yeah, they lost to Apex.
They both lost to Apex. So it was a little weird, but I think the thing that CLG has going for them is they get along really, really well, and they work together, and they have this goal where they always have some kind of motto that they're working towards, win everything, or whatever their saying is for that split. And I feel like that gives them a lot of unity in terms of how they approach problems, which you don't see from any other team.
Yeah, alignment is very important in a team. If somebody wants to, just win the split, and one person's like, I want to win Worlds, well, one of them is going to be, aiming for a different goal. Right. It's like, how do I achieve that? And of course, the obvious answer is we all have to get along together. We have to be teammates. We have to actually play towards the meta and get better and stuff like that. And I feel like CLG, they do have a little bit of an edge where they kind of, play so many different things. And I think that Zix is incredibly intelligent, and he'd be able to figure out, what's really good on this patch right now.
Now, of course, considering the 2 meetings that these teams had throughout the split, CLG did win both of their best of 3s. Now, the second match was a little bit closer, rather razor close, as some people might say. Team Liquid was ahead in all 3 games, but CLG were able to come back and win off a fight at Elder Dragon.
Yeah, they were actually, you talked about how CLG won both times they met. Both those series went to 3 games.
Right.
And in this one, like you said, TL was ahead the entire time, and this was just like MSI, CLG, like, what's going on? How are they winning? What's going on? Kobe's losing his mind.
Right.
Again.
10K deficits. Just
I think they won with a gold deficit, actually. It was kind of insane, and I think, like, I was one of the people who watched that series, and I was like, well, I think Team Liquid play better, and if those teams played best of 5, I think it goes maybe their way. But things obviously developed further as the rest of the season went on.
And they've had a couple more weeks, though, to retool and figure out how they're going to reapproach each other in a full best-of-5 series. And these are two closely matched teams. So what I'd like to do is break down the matchup position by position and discuss where we feel each squad maybe owns the edge over the other. So we're going to work through the lanes here, starting in the top lane, Darshan versus Lorlo. Who are we giving the edge to here?
Well,
Lorlo, Darshan, no.
Yeah, shout over each other.
Yeah, Lorlo.
yeah, I'm more right.
Let's go ahead and start with Mark. You're choosing Darshan, giving him an edge in the top lane. Why is that?
I think this is the closest one. We went back and forth a little bit on it. Darshan has like a little bit low over KD8, and I think makes more mistakes, but I think he also pushes a little bit better from ahead. And when you're stuck in standard lanes, and it's going to be this probably being a very snowballing matchup, they play very similar champions, a lot of Gnar, Aurelia, those kinds of matchups. I think the person who can push further from the lead that they get, because I think it will go back and forth throughout the series, I think we'll be able to take over the game more likely. So that's why I give it to Darshan.
All right. Zyrene?
For Lorlo, I think he's just been having an incredible split, and in comparison to Darshan, Darshan's been slumping, and even towards the end where it looked like CLG was picking up, he wasn't quite there just yet, and I give Lorlo the edge for multiple reasons. You know, you're talking about KDA. Lorlo, he plays the meta champions. He has the best KDA in the league on Shen, also he has it on Trundle. He's the second best one on Aurelia, so he's really good in lane, and in fact, he actually has the least times that he's been solo killed in lane with 11. Darshan has the most at 28.
Well, we're splitting the top lane, and as you mentioned, with the prevalence of standard lanes now, there's going to be even more of a focus on that 1v1 and possible 2v2s with junglers involved. Now, when it comes to the rest of this graphic, you two are mostly aligned with our decisions here, so we're going to auto-populate the rest of this, but I want to kind of ping through all of the matchups here. In the jungle, we've got Dardoch versus Xmithie. You guys are both giving an edge to Dardoch. Why?
I mean, I don't think it's too much of a surprise. Dardoch is a very unique player in his aggressiveness and what he can get done on the map. He has far and away like the highest DPM and like gold share among junglers. So, and the kills, obviously. So he's just the kind of player where if he starts getting ahead, he can run a game over. And while Xmithie is very good for CLG and how he helps them, it's just two different style players.
Yeah,
right?
And I feel like Dardoch with standard lanes is going to thrive. I've seen that guy do some really dirty things in standard lanes where he's tower diving, and those are actually kind of his bread and butter from when he first joined the league, was having those turret dives with Matt and getting those early kills. So I feel like he can snowball a lot better.
A real clash of styles. We'll see which one wins out today. Moving on to that mid lane matchup, Huhi versus Phoenix. Also giving this one to Phoenix, who has actually stepped up very much in the laning phases in particular this split.
Yeah, Phoenix has always been a really good laner, though. We talk about like this split spring, he was also crushing it with really high CS per minute. And honestly, he's really kind of left alone on this team to do his own thing. And in standard lanes, it's once again going to be that whole thing again. I feel like he has the edge. Huhi just isn't that same type of mid laner and falls behind really early.
All right, Mark, let's bounce down to the bot lane here. Now we're flipping back over to CLG. This is AD and support together. So the bot laners together, Aframu and Stixay, you say have the edge.
Right, and it's been a little shaky recently. We've seen some really questionable things out of them in the past couple weeks in standard lanes, but at the end of the day, they do have a bit of a pedigree of being able to step up in big moments, and we know that Aframu is just such a good leader for CLG and can take over games in terms of his individual play as well as that leadership role he plays.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because I was looking at player of the games that we had handed out, and Matt, he was a playmaker, he had the Bard and stuff like that. There's only 5 players in the league who didn't get player of the game, and Matt was one of them. So I expected him to at least come up with something, but he's been kind of invisible this split.
Yeah, the way that we've looked at him, and you know, from his inauguration into the LCS was very much that he was supposed to fulfill that role of a shot caller. Maybe that's
big
lacking
Bard
here.
ulti, stuff like that.
Now, the last two categories here, coaching, team, you guys are both in alignment, giving an edge to CLG. Now, within that, I do want to approach your predictions as well for this series. So down the line, starting with Mark, hit me with your predictions here.
I'm going to go with CLG. It's very, very close in my mind. I would go 3-2 or 3-1 just because Team Liquid is that kind of tilty, snowball, emotional team. And so I think
anything can happen.
Right, anything can happen. So I don't know if they'll hold on to have a full 5-game series, and then maybe they do. But I do think that Zix has shown that he can abuse teams in drafts over a series. He's done it to TSM when Loco was coaching, so I think he has a little bit of that heads-up advantage, as well as just the fact that we touched on the unity between CLG and the fact that I don't think that they'll get upset at each other over a series where that might happen potentially with TL.
Sorry.
I have to go the opposite direction here and go with Team Liquid.
Right.
Because I think that Team Liquid in standard lanes are just way better than CLG. CLG in the league had the highest rate and frequency of lane swapping with 61%, and they won 68% of those games.
Right.
But in standard lanes, they only won 44% of the time, and they had the worst gold deficit at 10 in standard lanes, going down 400 gold early on. I feel like they were the lane swapping team. They did really well in that, and taking that away from them honestly lowers CLG's power and puts them in situations where when they're in a slump, they get abused more.
So the question then is, can CLG weather that laning storm, right? Can they survive through the early pressure presented by Dardoch as well as the individual prowess of the Team Liquid laners and then use that to get a team victory?
Yeah, and like they've done things like that before, right? We've seen them win with 10K gold deficits. Like the team, it's honestly, they can come back, but I feel like Team Liquid with so much momentum, if they win game one, they're going to win the whole thing.
All right, well, the desk is split 1-1 here when it comes to our best-of-5 series, our final quarterfinal here in North America. That best-of-5 series is about to get underway, but first, a reminder that NALCS 2 will be live throughout the series with a special focus on the junglers. Follow Smithy and Dardoch prowling between the lanes and enjoy expert jungle commentary provided by Jat, Crumbs, and I Will Dominate. Now, teams are making their final preparations on stage, so let's head to the casters. And as we go, Stixay shares what this quarterfinal match means for CLG.
The quarterfinals match versus Team Liquid is pretty important for us because last split we played them in the semifinals, and the game came down to game 5 where it was essentially one play that won us the game. So it's super, super close. So obviously, every time we play TL, we played them twice the split and we 2-0'd them. So it's like, it always feels like we have something to prove when we play versus TL, and especially when it's in like a best of series, it's going to be a lot more important.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I am Jat, here with I Will Dominate and Crumbs. It is an ex-Dignitas player jungle stream, actually. I was jungler, then Dom was jungler, and Crumbs was then jungler, for those of you who didn't know. But thank you for joining us, guys. How you feel today?
I feel good. I'm ready to do this.
Yeah, reliving the old days and complaining about the new kids now.
Yeah. Specifically for you guys who haven't seen this before, it's a jungle-focused stream. So we're following Smithy and Dardoch in their jungle matchup. We can see them featured up against each other here. We have a few stats. Obviously, Dardoch kills a lot more people, does more damage. Smithy has a little bit more of a first blood. Crumbs, what is your take on this jungle matchup?
I mean, it's going to be a matter of how hard can Dardoch carry and how well can Smithy prevent his lanes from dying. If Dardoch can get away with carrying the game by himself, then I think TL has a really good shot in all these games, but it's all a matter of stuffing him and stuffing TL ultimately.
Yeah, and Dom, you obviously have a lot of experience with Dardoch. You were close friends with him. You were the jungler right before he was on Team Liquid. What do you think about this matchup?
I think it's going to be a matter of if Smithy can hold on. If Smithy can contain Dardoch's early aggression and he doesn't get too far behind, and he's there to prevent dives and prevent Dardoch from 1v9ing the game, I think that they'll be able to come out with a victory. It's mainly just about Smithy's